Sounds good.
Started.
Fabulous. Thank you, Rutland. Appreciate your time today with Bookkeeper support. So Rutland is from Harvey Norman IT Services. They're our preferred provider for all IT services and guidance when it comes to, AI and cybersecurity and all those kind of things. They've just recently taken over my computer, and I've needed them while I was in Vietnam quite a lot because my computer kept reverting back to Australian expectations, and it wouldn't let me use the Vietnam time frame, so it wouldn't let me globally explore. So they were fantastic in keeping me going and keeping me online, so I do appreciate that. So Rutland is here to talk to you about AI and cyber security and cyber policies, which is very needed at the moment with the current legislation that they're rolling out. So Rutland, I shall leave you to it. Go ahead.
Just sharing my screen now, and one of the things I'm not sure about is how many people here have come to the last webinar that we ran. So I'm going to cover a little bit of what we ran last time, but also some new stuff so that if you've been to one, you're getting something new out of this one as well. Now, Kelly, I haven't had a chance to tell you, but there is actually two of me. And I just want to introduce you. I just want to introduce you to Rutland the second. So here he comes.
Goodness.
Hi, my name is Rutland Smith II. I say the second because I am not the original. In fact, I am better. You see, I am the artificial intelligence version of Rutland Smith. As a result, I can produce long videos without ever stumbling or saying, I am certainly smarter than the original. I can do things like speak in different languages. For example, I can encourage my team members in Arabic. شكرا للفريق. أعتقد أنكم جميعا رائعين، ولكنني أريد منكم أن تجدوا طريقة للقيام بالمزيد كل أسبوع. Or I can discuss the weather in Chinese. 最近天气很暖和，希望下周能下点雨。Most importantly, I am only going to get better at this, which means I can pester my team, my friends, and my kids even more than ever. I look forward to getting to know you better as original Rutland gets better at unleashing my powers.
So that's a bit of a fun way, I think, of showing you how much AI is changing and how quickly it's changing. And that video was created by typing in a script. It was not recorded. It wasn't actually me. AI had a video of me that it used to create what's called an AI video avatar, and then literally they created the script and typed it all in, and as you can see, it looks pretty realistic. And we'll talk a little bit more about AI later. Kelly, if you wouldn't mind keeping an eye on letting participants in, because I can only see the PowerPoint slides, if that's okay.
Yep, if I can see them coming in, that's fine.
Okay, great. So look, one of the things I wanted to do today was really give you an update on what's happening in the marketplace with technology, talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing, and also hopefully provide you with a little bit of education. There's a lot of topics that we can cover, and there's a lot of information that we can go through. And really, I want to encourage you to ask questions, because not a lot of us here. If there's something you don't know, if there's something you're really keen to know about, ask a question. If I know the answer, I'll give it to you there and then. If I don't know the answer, I'll either go away and find out, or I'll just make something up. No, I promise I won't make something up. I'll go away and find out if I don't know the answer. And, one of the things to be aware of is there's lots of different threats in the cybersecurity space at the moment. One of the big ones is business email. A lot of the cyber criminals these days are trying to take over your email. And the reason for that, in most cases, is if they can take over your email, they can then do things like start sending out fake invoices. And that's really important, I suppose, to understand, particularly depending on the types of clients that you have. There's not a lot of point taking over and sending out fake invoices for a client that doesn't send out invoices for large amounts of money. But it's really successful for the cyber criminals if they target the sorts of industries that do have big payments. If you think about progress payments in the construction industry, progress payments for all the kind of people who support the construction industry. We saw some really interesting stuff happening with a pool company a few months ago where they tried to send out fake invoices. We've seen it happen with car yards where they've sent out fake invoices for very large amounts of money. We've even seen it happen with a crane company where they provide their cranes to large construction sites, and they started sending out fake invoices to all the customers. And the reason they're doing that is because these invoices are huge. 50 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand. So a lot of the criminals these days are trying to take over your email. And what's scary about that is they don't need to take over your computer to take over your email. They just need to break into your tenant, depending on what you're using, which is in the cloud, and it's a completely different type of hack, if you like. Phishing is probably something you're all very familiar with, but it's worth reminding you because it's probably the most prevalent. And phishing is where they convince somebody in your team to click on a link. They send out an email that's very convincing. It might sort of seem urgent. It might seem like you've really got to action this because it's important, because it's from the bank or the tax office, or at least it appears that way. And what they're trying to do is by getting you to click on the link, whilst it looks like one thing on the screen, behind the screen, it's actually a piece of malware, and it's installing and giving permission for software to install on your computer so that they can do anything from sort of logging what you do on your keyboard through to having absolute and complete control of your computer. Um, Social engineering is another type of attack, and I thought I'd share that with you. And a lot of what they do with social engineering is they kind of get enough information about you or one of your team to then be able to use that information to trick you into doing something, right? And I'll give you an example of something they've been doing very recently, and that is they've been going through LinkedIn, and what they do is they notice everybody who's posting about a new job. And if someone is posting about a new job, they will then do something like this. They'll contact that person and pretend to be the HR department or the IT department. And they'll say, "Oh, welcome aboard. We just need you to do X, Y, Z as part of your onboarding." And because you're new and you don't know how the company works, and because they sound really official and they seem to know that you're a new staff member, you're really likely to fall for it, right? But really, they're criminals, and what they've done is they've gone along and used a piece of information about you, which is, you've posted on LinkedIn that you have this new job, and as a result of that, they're able to be very convincing, right? Which is something you have to be worried about. Uh, Now, Kelly, I've just got Vanessa telling me she doesn't have the link. Do you mind sending it to her, please?
Sure, no worries.
Thank you. Um, Ransomware, I imagine many of you have heard of, but just in case you haven't, ransomware is another type of attack. And what they do with ransomware is they encrypt all of your information. Normally, not just your computer, but also your information in the cloud. And by encrypting that information, it becomes useless to you, right? And this is where they then try to charge you a ransom, right? They might say to you, I will unencrypt this for $5,000 or $10,000, or, I saw one the other day for nearly $1 million. And this is happening more and more frequently to all sizes of businesses. We saw one the other day in a business in a small country town in New South Wales. and they were in the fuel distribution business. So they weren't a particularly, you know, obvious target, but they closed them down and they asked, I think from memory, for about $300,000. Like that was a really high ransom. And these guys, they didn't have backups, they didn't have protection, they hadn't really done anything to protect themselves. So when that happened, they were in a really, really bad way. Malware is just a term for anything that's malicious. So, any kind of virus or worm or, all of the different technologies that, you've heard about in the past. And then this is happening more in larger businesses than smaller businesses, but insider threats is also becoming a big issue. You get that disgruntled employee, maybe they didn't get the pay rise they wanted, maybe they've been terminated, and on the way out the door, they execute some sort of malicious software, or they make their password available to someone, or there's lots of different things that they can do. And it's one of those things where if you're not set up correctly and if you're not protecting yourself correctly, um, you know, a disgruntled employee can do an enormous amount of damage. So that's just a bit of a quick insight into kind of some of the things that are happening and what the types of threats are that are out there. There are others, but I just wanted to cover a couple of the major ones. Always funny when a computer guy has problems with computers. Thank you. I just got to my next slide. Um, One of the things I think is really important to cover, and Kelly touched on it at the start of the presentation, is for you and for your clients, it's really quite overwhelming trying to keep up with the current cyber threat environment. It changes on a daily basis. We work with our security operations center, which has almost 200 people in it, and they work with a number of other organizations around the world, big, people in the cybersecurity space, to have what we call a trust center. And all they do all day long is monitor what's going on and share information with other companies and update um, the latest incidents so that everybody can be aware of what's going on. And it changes almost constantly. Uh, and I think the Institute of Company Directors sums it up quite nicely here in their cybersecurity handbook, when they say, it's quite overwhelming and very difficult to stay up to date, particularly when you need to be compliant with government frameworks like the Essential Eight. And as you guys know, you are um, uh, very much in the line of fire with criminals, because you have such sensitive information, and you have this duty of care as a director to protect your customers' information. You also are expected to take adequate steps. Right? It's not just a matter of what you think is the right level of protection. And what we're seeing is a lot of people have the kind of protection that you would have in the home or the consumer space. So, they've got a laptop, they might be running some internet security, but they don't have much more. And what they're supposed to have is completely different from a business perspective. And as you know, with bookkeepers, you've got to keep up with all of the professional standards. You're sorry, these slides are going forward unexpectedly. You've got to do data breach notification. Doesn't matter how small you are. Bookkeepers are not part of that exemption for small business. And anything that involves tax file numbers, obviously, is very important that you protect. And the guidelines that you're supposed to follow are what's called the Essential Eight, which is a framework of cyber risk mitigation from the Australian Cyber Security Centre, which are part of the federal government. Now, I don't know if anybody on this call has sleeping problems, but if you do, download the 200-page plus Essential 8 framework documentation, take it to bed, start reading it, and I can guarantee you'll fall asleep very, very quickly. Um, uh, as you probably already know, governments in this country like to make things difficult and they like to put in as much red tape as possible. And what they've done with the Australian Essential Eight framework is quite frankly make it so complicated that it's too hard for a small business to implement by themselves. I don't know how a small business could implement it by themselves. There's just so much complexity, and you have to have so much knowledge of IT that unless you're a professional IT person, it's very, very hard to implement it. And that's unfortunate, but it's the reality that we all live with. And I'm guessing it's not new to you because you see this in regulations in all sorts of other parts of your work life. And I'm, I hope it all changes, but I don't think it will. I think we're just going to see more and more red tape, and we're certainly going to see more and more regulation around cybersecurity. And the key message really here to you, if you haven't done anything, and to your clients, if they haven't done anything, is it's now at a point where you just can't afford to ignore cybersecurity in your business. You need to make sure you're compliant with that Australian Essential Eight. You're legally required to do so, but it's also in your best interest to do so because there's so much at risk if something goes wrong. You know, you get hacked, it is a really horrible experience. It can give you downtime. It can cost you a lot of money. The average cost of a hack, according to the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, so it's a federal government statistic, is $46,000 for small businesses. It's higher for medium and large businesses. The average cost, $46,000. And we know that because we deal with these things all the time and we see what it costs customers all over Australia. And I believe that statistic is fairly accurate because I've seen them lower, I've seen them about that price, and I've seen them higher. And just what we've seen, but about $50,000 that it can cost you. So there's a lot of reason to do it, both from a legal perspective, from a financial perspective. There's a lot of reason to get compliant with the Essential Eight. And then from a reputational perspective, it's very important to be compliant with the Essential Eight because if you do get breached, you have to notify because you're in the bookkeeping business. It becomes public knowledge. That damages the reputation of your business, makes it harder to attract new clients. Potentially, you will lose clients because they won't want to do business with you. So there's just so many reasons to make sure you're compatible. One of the questions that I kind of like to ask people is, if you got breached, have you thought about what you're going to tell your customers and how that conversation is going to go? It's an uncomfortable thing to think about, but it's an important thing to think about. And really, at the end of the day, what's at risk is your whole business. It is an existential threat to most small businesses. This is an American statistic. I don't have an Australian one, but I think it's going to be similar. And what they found is that 60% of small businesses fail within 6 months of a cyber breach. So you've got better than a 50% chance of failing if you get breached. You're less likely to survive than you are to go broke, right? And that's the kind of reason that it's very important that you get things done. And as we've done for Kelly, we've now got her entire system locked up tight and um she probably doesn't even know half the stuff we're doing in the background, and she doesn't need to, right? We've just got it all locked up tight for her.
Yeah, and it's great because I get emails advising me of quarantined emails that may not be appropriate to send through, and so I can say no.
That's right. Now you're having trouble with your reception, I think, Kelly, because you're breaking up a bit.
It's very quick and easy to say yes or no to that email if I notice it's coming forward the subject message. Yeah. Continue.
Thank you. Thank you. You're breaking up a bit, so I'm not sure if you're aware. It's a bit hard sometimes to hear a bit. But if you think about what I said earlier around a lot of people basically have the same kind of security that you have for a consumer in the home, what you need to meet the essential eight and what you need to do in the business is this concept of a layered defense. And the analogy I like to use is how you protect your home, right? So you wouldn't lock your front door and leave all of your windows wide open, right? From a
Yes,
security perspective, that doesn't work. And you kind of can add lots of different layers. So you lock the doors, you lock the windows, you put in motion detectors, you put in security cameras, you put an alarm in. You might even have a drive-by monitoring service. It just depends how secure you want to make your home. Each one of those is a layer of protection. And in the cybersecurity industry, it's very important for businesses to have multiple layers of protection. And you don't have to understand all of these different layers, but you do have to have these different layers because there's so many different ways people can get in. So it's important that you have things like web browsing security so that you don't get, um, you don't have a vulnerability while you're browsing the web. But then you also need network security. You need identity management. You should have multi-factor authentication turned on for everything that you do. The biggest one I would say is do it for your social media, because if someone takes over your Facebook account and they get your password, they will lock you out. And the only way they can do that is if you don't have multi-factor authentication turned on. And then along with the proactive defense strategies, there's then the strategies to make sure that you restrict any damages that happen if something goes wrong. And the number one way that you do that is by having high quality data backup and data recovery processes and technology in place. So when I say processes, there's no point having a backup unless you have a recovery plan, unless you know exactly how you're going to do your recovery if XYZ incident happens. And having that incident response plan is a really big part of making sure that if something does go wrong, it doesn't cost you a lot of time and it doesn't cost you a lot of money. So let me just take a moment to talk a little bit about what Harvey Norman Technology for Business does. And I'm going to sell here for a little bit, but not too hard. Um, um, what we do is we provide businesses like Kelly's and like yours and like your clients with the opportunity to kind of say, I don't want to manage my IT. I would like Harvey Norman to be my IT department. Because what we've done is we've gone and built a really high quality enterprise grade IT department. And if you think about if you've ever worked for a large business and you had the IT department, you had the help desk, your computers were all protected, there's a lot of security, there's a lot of policies, and you didn't really have to worry about it because the IT department did everything for you. And we've kind of done the same thing, right? In a big organization, the IT department looks after hundreds of different sites, hundreds of different departments. They look after all kinds of different parts of the same business. Well, for us, we just took that idea and said, well, why can't we just look after hundreds of different small businesses? And practically it's no different. We bring on a small business kind of no differently to the way a big IT department would bring on a department. And so when we're dealing with people, and I can see there's a chat question come through. Chat support. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Um, uh, so what we've done, and I'll give you a couple of examples, is build the kind of department that you would expect to get in a really big business. Like I'm talking ASX 200 type of thing. We have our help desk, which I'll show you in a moment. We have nearly 200 people sitting in a security operations center monitoring every device of everybody that we look after. So that's not a, extra expense. That's a base requirement. Everybody gets that 24/7, 365 security monitoring. And, the fact that it's 24/7 is quite important. Um, it's a little known fact that the number one time for cyber attacks in the world is usually on Christmas Eve. because cyber criminals know that most businesses have gone home and they're going to be home for a number of days. So they want to get in and they want to have as much time as possible to do as much damage as possible. So, we can't afford to take a day off. So we monitor constantly. And I'll give you an example of one that happened recently. Well, I say recently, a few months ago. We have a client who's in far northwestern Australia, and they run a welding business. Now, a welding business is not the kind of business you would expect to be attacked. And what was really interesting was this business didn't just get a standard attack, they got quite a sophisticated attack. There's hackers who are, fairly basic, and sometimes they're all, they're the 16-year-old kids. And then there's hackers who are actually quite clever and they've got much more sophisticated techniques. And this was sophisticated, and our guys were monitoring it. They fought it off. They made sure he didn't get hacked. And, if he hadn't had that service, they would have hacked him and he wouldn't have even known about it. They would have been none the wiser. The next night, they came along and tried again, 1 o'clock in the morning, highly sophisticated attack. It's sort of like something out of the movies in a way. And, and we're trying to work out why are these guys so determined to break into a welding business that's out in the middle of nowhere in the, far northwestern Australia. So we had a chat to the owner, and what we discovered was that he sends a number of his staff out to work on the oil rigs in the Northwest Shelf. So, the oil and gas rigs out there. And what we think was going on was someone was trying to compromise their computers in the hope that they could sit there dormant, quiet, not tell anyone that they've been hacked, and then hopefully piggyback onto the oil rigs or the gas rigs and see if there was some way of actually compromising that critical infrastructure. So it's kind of an example of how you just don't know why or what might happen. It happens to the smallest of businesses, and you need the kind of security monitoring that we're talking about to fight this off. This is not the sort of thing that can be protected because you've got a copy of Norton Internet Security running like you would have at home. It's completely different. And just like in any other, big IT department, we lock everything down. If you think about when you work for a larger business, you couldn't just got to go in and install BitTorrent and start downloading illegal movies. They don't let me do that on Harvey Norman laptops, obviously. And we do the same thing for all of our customers. We lock it all down. Very important for you guys because I know you're under a lot of pressure to implement quality management systems. We provide you not just with the technological support of a big IT department, but we also provide you with templated policies. So you can put in place a number of the policies that are required to show that you've got a documented quality management system. We talked about the importance of backup and recovery earlier. We back up everything everywhere. We back them up to about 3 different locations. Our team actually practices doing recoveries. So if you ever did get breached, then you can call us and we will recover you. And generally, I don't want to make any promises, but generally, because of the way we've set it up and because we practice it, we'll do it very, very quickly. I've seen drills where we've done this and we've been able to recover an entire business in under 15 minutes in a drill. The reason I say in a drill is because we've never had a customer actually get breached, right? We've never, so far, no one has been able to breach any of our customers. We provide cyber training like you'd expect. We do phishing simulations. We give you an update on whether your team is doing a clicking on the links. We encrypt everything. We basically do everything that an IT department would do. And I keep coming back to that analogy. You just think about us like a really big IT department, and anything that you need done, you just go to the help desk and you ask us to get that done. And it's quite high quality enterprise grade. And I want to demonstrate that with a quick video of our help desk. Some of you might have seen this before, but I'll play it anyway. So our help desk is separate to our security operations center. It's also got over 200 people on it. And the beauty of having over 200 people there is they're all certified in almost everything that you can imagine. Between the 200 of them, Apple, Microsoft, Cisco, Amazon, weird stuff like Citrix, they're qualified in it. We put that H for Harvey Norman help button in the bottom right hand corner of all of our customers' computers, and you can contact us via chat, phone, or email. But most people contact us simply by clicking on that logo so that they can immediately start chatting with one of our engineers. The beauty of chatting with one of the engineers is you're not stuck sitting there waiting on listening to help music. The engineer can immediately go into your computer and remotely access what needs to be done. So they're not there trying to tell you what to do or trying to set up a connection by sending you links and asking you to put in the codes. None of that. They can immediately go in and start helping you just like a help desk would do in a major corporation. And I think the other thing worth kind of stating here, because what I'm trying to highlight here is the quality of what we do, perhaps compared to what other smaller IT service providers do, is, we've got all of this resources, but we've also thought about the customer experience. Harvey Norman aren't a bunch of technicians. We're people who've been thinking about customers our entire careers. The last 25 years of my life has been about making sure we give good customer service. And nobody wants to ring a place where there's 200 people and get somebody different every single time and have to explain themselves and repeat themselves over and over again. I think we all go through that with help lines and inquiry lines, way too often, and it's pretty frustrating. So we thought through how we're going to solve that, and we came up with this idea of implementing what's called advanced bullseye routing. And what that does is we identify um, uh, uh, what business your inquiry is coming from. Doesn't matter if it's chat, phone, or email. We go, okay, this business that's coming in to make an inquiry is called Bookkeeper Support. And Bookkeeper Support is allocated to the following 5 people. And then it automatically looks up who's on, what's on the roster, who's currently not on the phone, and it allocates the inquiry to somebody who's in those same 4 or 5 people. Just quite a clever piece of technology, and it happens almost instantaneously. And the whole idea is every time you make contact, you're dealing with the same 4 or 5 people. You can build a relationship with those people. They can become familiar with your environment, and ultimately that makes them more efficient at how they support you. Now, you still have all the benefits of the other 195 people. If they don't have the answer and they need to go and speak to the specialist in whatever, XYZ problems, they can still do that for you, but you're not having to deal with someone different every time. And all I'm really trying to do here is highlight to you that what we're providing is a very well thought through, high quality service that actually puts the customer first, right? It's not all about the technology, it's all about the customer. So we have this expression, imagine how much more you could achieve with Harvey Norman as your IT department. It's more profit, it's less risk, it's less hassle. You're getting a quality solution that you can't really get from a small IT company. You've got cyber security that's right up there with the kind of cyber security that you would have if you were running an ASX 200 company. And you've got the fact that we're assisting you to be compliant with the Essential 8, compliant with all the accounting guidelines, compliant with all the policies, and make sure that if something ever did go wrong, no one's going to point the finger at you and say, hey, you didn't try. They're going to say, you went out of your way to try and protect your customers' data. You're not negligent. You're not legally liable if something has gone wrong. And that's a bit like the way we think about workplace health and safety. But the other thing about having Harvey Norman as your IT department, if you think about if you're one of those CEOs of a big ASX 200 company and you had an IT department, one of the things you'd want that IT department to do is keep up to date with technology and help keep you on the right track with what is the right technology to be using in the future. And that's exactly what we do. We don't just do everything we just talked about. We also have a role to play in making sure that we can give you, our customers, the right advice and kind of act like your CIO in terms of making sure that we have your best interests at heart when we go about giving you ideas on what you should and should not do next. And, I'm going to highlight that a little bit with artificial intelligence. You will, if you're not already, you probably are already, you'll be bombarded with messages about artificial intelligence over the next, 12 to 24 months. There'll be people telling you that you should buy this artificial intelligence because it can automate your banking reconciliations for you. There'll be people saying, get this artificial intelligence because it's integrated into Xero or MYOB or QuickBooks or whatever it is that you're using. There'll be people saying get this artificial intelligence because it'll help you with your rostering. It'll help you. There'll be everything you can think of. There'll be an artificial intelligence product for it, and for every product there is, there'll be a salesperson trying to flog it to you. And it's going to be very difficult to stay up to date with what's happening in the artificial intelligence world. And really, you don't want to be doing that. You want to be focusing on your business, and you want someone like us to be doing it for you. And so we have a team of people who are analyzing and assessing artificial intelligence products at the moment. And today I'm going to talk to you about one particular product because my tip is this product is going to be prevalent and used by almost every business in the next couple of years, right? There'll be a lot of AI product that'll come and go, but I think this one is going to be a winner. And I think it's worth making sure that you start looking at it now so that when the time is right, you can take advantage of it, having had a little bit of a time to think about it and analyze it. Because one of the things you have to be really careful about with artificial intelligence is if you don't know what you're doing, it can very quickly go wrong. And I'll give you a couple of examples. There was a company, I won't name anybody, that implemented artificial intelligence and they didn't implement it very well. And they didn't really understand that when you have the power of AI, and you don't restrict people's accesses and permissions, you suddenly have the ability to go looking for information in a way like you've never had it before. You're sitting in a company and there's terabytes of folders all sitting in the central OneDrive or SharePoint or wherever. Take you a year to go through every folder, right? But with AI, you just put in a question and it goes through it for you, right? And this company that I'm talking about, quite sinister, really, what happened. A young male employee typed into the AI, please give me a list of all of the female employees under the age of 30. Please give me their phone number and please give me their home address and put it in a table. And guess what? The AI spat all of that information out, right? Now that's pretty scary that first that he asked that question in the first place, but secondly, the AI gave him all the information, right? And it's an example of what can go wrong if you haven't implemented it correctly. Now, there's other examples. This one makes me chuckle because I've got a perverse sense of humor, but this one's a school where they implemented AI and they didn't do it very well. Guess what one of the kids did? They typed into the AI, please give me a table with all of the teachers' salaries. And guess what? The AI spat the whole thing out. And guess what the little turd did? Shared it with every other kid in the school. That makes me chuckle, but it's really not. It's really not funny. But I kind of think it's funny. But it's an example of how things can go wrong with AI, and that's why I've got a team of people who are learning about it. We've already developed templates and processes so that when we implement AI with our customers, we are going through checklists to make sure that it's implemented in a way where it's safe and it's trustworthy. So what I want to talk to you today about is Microsoft Copilot for 365. And some of you will have already experienced Copilot. It's in most most of your computers now if you're using Windows, and it's also in the Edge internet browser. And if you're using that version of Copilot, it's a great product. It's free of charge. In fact, I've started using it instead of Google. I now use it to find out all sorts of information. I'll give you an example. The other day, I was looking for somewhere to get my dog groomed. And instead of going to Google and typing in dog groomers near me and getting, 10 blue links and then having to go to every page and work it out for myself, I just went into Copilot and said, give me a table of the dog groomers within 10 kilometers of my address and what they charge. And it just gave me this great table. And I was able to go, I'm going to ring those three and see if they've got any availability. The product I'm talking about is different to that in that it's designed specifically to work with your Microsoft 365. And if you think about everything that you keep in your Microsoft 365, all of your Excel spreadsheets, all of your files sitting on OneDrive, all of your emails, it's a lot of information. And by working with your Microsoft 365, which for many of us is the tool we use the most often in business, it has this great opportunity to free up and automate a lot of tasks, which then will give you a lot more time in your day. And I'm going to give you just a very basic couple of examples via video right now.
As we roll out Copilot in Excel, we are initially focused on the 98% of mainstream users who struggle to get the full value of Excel. In this example, we have some raw product and sales data, and as you get started with Copilot, it helps you convert your data to a formatted table for easy filtering, sorting, and analyzing. Now, say you want to add a column with profit margin. Instead of creating the formula and dragging it down all the cells, a simple instruction can do that for you. What's great about this is that it not only provides the calculation with the formula, but also explains how it is calculated, so you can also learn from Copilot. Once you're happy, you can easily add it to the table. For those of you who know how to apply conditional formatting to make specific data stand out, it often is a time-consuming and complex task. Instead, you can just ask Copilot. For example, you want to mark all the rows with a negative profit margin with some visual icon. Within seconds, all the cells with negative profit margin are easy to spot. One thing most of us struggle with is identifying interesting patterns in large data sets. Copilot can easily produce interesting observations just by asking it to show you insights. This is where generative AI really does its magic. After a little bit of processing, it reveals a chart with the most interesting insights. Now, we could dig further on this specific insight, but let's instead explore all the insights, which you can add to a new tab so that your original data remains intact. Let's take a closer look at this pie chart. Now, many of us have used pivot tables before, and they are very powerful, but it's always a struggle to manipulate charts in meaningful ways. Right-click on the chart and then click the Show Field List. This brings up a new window with pivot chart fields, essentially bringing pivot chart capabilities to everyday users. Here you can interact with all your data and create the exact view of the data you need, which you can then insert into your PowerPoint presentation or email.
Sorry, that stopped. But anyway, you get the idea.
Now let's wrap up this demo in Outlook. As we roll out Copilot in Excel, we are initially focused on the 9. Here I am in an email thread of several messages, and I was the last to be added to a thread. I can tap Summary by Copilot to get a real quick analysis of what this email is about. Here are the 3 main points. Alice is interested in getting access to Copilot and sharing it with her customers. Corey has suggested that I would be the person to help, and Alice is now asking me for access to Copilot and to arrange a presentation for her customer. I can reply to the message now and click Draft with Copilot. I need to give it some instruction. Now the beauty is I don't have to give too much context, but of course the more I give it, the more accurately it will create what I need. So let's start with Copilot access in November, For now, use pitch deck demos. I can present to your customer in 2 weeks and follow up with me in 3 weeks for Copilot access. Before I generate it, I can change the tone, including making it sound like me, which uses my recent sent items to identify and apply unique characteristics of my writing style. But in this example, I want to make it formal and medium length. And now Copilot gets to work. Now it goes without saying, the more instruction you give Copilot when it's creating an email, the more accurate it's going to be. So here's your first draft. Let's hit keep. Now, if you try to send it, Copilot will let you know, please check it before you send it because AI generated content may be incorrect. This just serves as a reminder that Copilot can get things wrong and you are always in the driver's seat. So let's take a look. I'm glad to hear that you're interested in Copilot and want to share it with your customers. Copilot is indeed a powerful tool that can help developers write better code faster and easier. Now it's interesting that it wrote that, because if you look further down, there's a sentence that Alice used. Copilot seems to be an amazing new tool that helps you write better code faster and easier. So it's using the context from the email below to help respond to the email. So not only is it following your instruction, but it's pairing that with what it knows about the email thread. Now, of course, you'd want to refine the email so that it's ready to send. Now, this experience works very well on mobile as well, which is one of the ways I use it most of the time.
I'm smiling here at the question. I don't know if I'm scared or if I'm impressed. And look, this is kind of what I'm talking about how it's all about how it gets implemented, right? So the beauty of working with Microsoft Copilot, and you only just what you saw was that's just the tip of the iceberg of what this thing's capable of, is it's unlike a lot of other AI products, it's not sharing your data and it's not learning from your data. It's not using the data to make its model better. It's all protected and it's something that you can actually trust as a product. And particularly if you get someone who knows what they're doing to implement it correctly for you, because you want to make sure you don't end up with some of those, scenarios that we spoke about earlier. So you can see why I think this is the product that you should be keeping your eye on. No need to go and implement it immediately. Some of you might have a need for it, and if you do, come and talk to us. We can assist you. But I'd be keeping an eye on this product going forward because not only does it read your Microsoft 365 data, you can set up integrations with other products that you use. So if you want to set up an integration where it starts taking data out of your accounting and bookkeeping software, that can be set up for you, which then means you can start doing things like show me insights, as you saw in the demo of the Excel, and it'll not just use the Excel data, but it'll also use the accounting data that's in there in place. And it's not just, the examples that I'm giving. You can pretty much put any integration of data into the model that you want. So if you wanted to integrate it with your marketing program or with your HR program, it's all possible. It just needs to be built and implemented correctly in the first place. So I didn't want to go into, everything about AI today, but what I hope I've done is give you a bit of a taste of some of the things to be aware of and just an insight into the product that I think you should be keeping your eye on in the short term, because I think it's going to generate a lot of efficiencies for businesses moving forward. And Microsoft have done it very cleverly because they've done it in a way where you don't have to be scared. It's very controlled and it's very trustworthy, which I think is a fantastic thing. Whereas some of the others have not done that. They want to get your data and they want to sell your data, right? It's a different model altogether. So let me just finish by reminding you of the partnership between Harvey Norman Technology for Business and Bookkeepers Support. We are really pleased that we've got this partnership with Kelly. Part of the partnership is that we want to come out and do regular training. This is one of those training days, give you regular industry updates. We share information with you, and I know Kelly's been posting stuff to social media and sending stuff out via email. We have information for you that you can share with your clients to keep them protected. And we have a referral program where you can actually make money by introducing your clients to us. But we're really focused on helping you to be safe and helping your clients to be safe. I make no, I don't hide from the fact that we want to sell product. We've got to make a profit ourselves, but we're doing it by protecting people, right? And making that happen, in a way where you don't have to buy from us and you don't feel like there's any kind of high pressure sell. And by being a member of Bookkeeper Support, you get all of those benefits, plus you get access to exclusive offers. So we're continuing to provide the offer of doing a free cybersecurity assessment report for all of your members. So we normally sell that product for $499. We will come in and free of charge do a complete Essential 8 assessment of your business. It's not a tick and flick. We get that done by highly qualified cybersecurity experts, and we provide you with a report that says, here's everything that we've found. And we don't just show you what we found, we also then make recommendations on how you can fix it and what are the priorities. So that's one of the things that you get at no charge because you're a part of Bookkeeper Support. The other thing is we're always doing offers. So, at the moment, if you sign up, and I think this ends in a few days' time, you get the first 3 months for free. So if you sign up to a 12-month plan, you don't have to pay anything until January. And it's not that you get charged for the 3 months just in 3 months' time. You actually get the first 3 months free. So that's a pretty hot offer. And these things are on this page. So if you haven't already got this page bookmarked, and I know Kelly sends it out regularly, and maybe we can paste it in the chat, please, regularly visit this page. It's got tips, it's got tricks, it's got little videos. You can see what the offers are. You can make inquiries. It's all there to be a helpful resource for you moving forward.
Yep, the link's on my website in the resources section of the website. So the link is there available for everybody.
Perfect. So, I hope that you found today helpful. I'm getting all sorts of
Eye-opening would be another word.
and look, from an AI perspective, there's so much going on. As you saw, at the start of the presentation, I can now create a video which you can't tell the difference between a real one and not a real one. And I can do that with 15 minutes of recording, and then I just type in a script, type it in to say whatever I want it to say. So it's really phenomenal, the speed at which it's moving. We've got a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions or any comments that they'd like to make? I'm going to stop sharing the screen so I can so I can see all of your beautiful faces. Because before I couldn't, now I can. If you've got a question, either just speak up or put it in the chat if you're more comfortable, whatever you like the best. As I said, if I can't answer it, I'll make up something completely false, and you won't know the difference. That's not true. Nicole, I can see you found it interesting to see it for explaining Copilot. So the one that's popping up all the time is not the one I showed you. The one that's popping up all the time is the free one, and it doesn't look at your Microsoft 365. It surfs the web and answers questions for you. All right. So you can ask it anything. I've got a funny story. I was trying to show my son. I don't know how many of you have children, but he's 22. He's just started his first serious job as a real estate agent. And I'm showing him Copilot, thinking, how lucky you've got a dad who knows this, and I can teach you all about it, and you can use it to be really good at work. And like whenever I get overconfident, he immediately smacked me in the face and knocked me down. Because I'm saying to him, ask it about what properties have sold and what's this and is it, and I gave him the keyboard, and the first thing he typed in was So who would win a fight between Walter White and Dexter? At this point, I gave up and said, "You go and do your own career."
Oh, you gotta love kids.
He's a cheeky little bugger. Does anyone have any other questions? I'm more than happy. No? Great. Can you please make something up? Sure. Sure, John. Sure, John, I can. You probably don't know this, but in a previous life, I was a very famous actor. That is completely untrue, but I made it up for you.
Well done, Ratlin. Well done.
Some people say I have a face for radio. So.
Well,
Okay.
for those who are attending the ABN conference, Rutland's going to be there and he's going to be presenting a lot of stuff on this very topic. So feel free to catch up with him there, and many other events that we're going to have. There will be more opportunity. As Rutland said, we're working together, so there will be more opportunity to ask questions. Or if you have any queries or anything, just go to my resources section of the Bookkeeper support website, and that's where you'll find the link for Harvey Norman, and I'll share it with this video anyway, so it's easier to access for you all. But thanks so much for your time today, Rutland. I really appreciate it, and I think we've certainly learnt a lot more about AI and cybersecurity and things that we really need to be on the lookout for.
Thanks, Kelly. It's always nice to catch up, and I hope it's been helpful. And look forward to seeing you all at the ABN conference, and hopefully maybe seeing some of you as customers, and doing this next webinar in a few months' time. And who knows what AI will be doing by then? It's going that fast. I can guarantee you there'll be something we haven't thought of.
Yes, I suspect so. Thank you so much, Rutland. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.